Dynamax Latios and Latias are coming to Pokemon Go in 5 days time for a max battle weekend. And like last week, I call it a quality of life update because I really consider it to be so. But if you go to the event screen and scroll right to the bottom, you'll see that we already have available after 6 AM on Monday morning the Dynamax Latias and Latios Max Battle Weekend timed research to help us get ready. And for this week, it looks like it's going to be giving us an encounter with Dynamax Ghastly, which actually isn't too bad a suggestion, unlike the Persimmon that we were awarded last week. I doubt that they would surprise us and make that a Gigantamax Gengar, which will just be in a whole world of its own. But anyway, plan for today's short video is I want to smash through as much of this research as I can and then take a look at some of the best counters that we have available currently in Pokemon Go to be able to take on Latios and Latias this coming weekend. Just like last weekend, I'm starting off with a bunch of max particles in the bag, so I'm going to be able to do all 5. I'm looking specifically for Darumaka battles. Check number 1, no shiny. After that one battle, I still haven't used enough particles to claim anymore. After completing the first task 2, it brings the research a little bit closer to the top, so I have win 3, catch 5, level up a max move 3 times and unlock a max move. Okay, find 4 more. This is battle number 2, no shiny, 802, okay. I found the Charmander. I'm a huge sucker for Charmander. Even though I already have the shiny and the hundo, it is my favourite Pokemon in the game, so I absolutely can't pass these up. 460's the hundo we're looking for, leave behind Urshifu, and this one is no shiny, 542. But following collection from that power spot, we have now collected our 500, so we can see, yeah, it's a Ghastly. That's cool. It can be shiny. And this one's a level 15, so it's research IVs. So the hundo you're going to be looking for is 527 CP. Means this one's not going to be all that good. No. Oh, I just need 2 more battles to complete that research, and then we'll go ahead and build my team for the battles this weekend. Shiny check number 4, went for a little walk on the beach. Beautiful day out today, and this one's a Darumaka again, non-shiny. 1 more battle. I drove straight past 3 Darumaka because I saw this Charmander instead. Leave behind shiny Lapras for the flex, no shiny and 533. And that's about all I want to do for the research today. So let's go check out the counters. Okay, so if you've ever had any experience with Latios or Latias in T5 raid battles, you might have noticed that one's considerably harder than the other. Both of the Eon twins have the same typing, Psychic and Dragons, each with a different purpose. And when it comes to Psychic type and Dragon type attacks for max battles, Latios is going to serve as the number 1 best attacker in both of those categories. So normally blue, has a green shiny. The cool colours. And then we have Latias, which is the red one, or the hot colours, with its shiny being this orange colour. Latias has the higher defense stat out of the 2 Eon twins, and it shows more particularly when taking these on in T5 raid battles. Latios, with its lower defense stat but higher attack, hits harder but also takes more damage, so it's actually not too difficult to be able to defeat that Pokemon with only 2 trainers. Latias, on the other hand, is more difficult, and I'm not even certain if it's possible. Maybe it is now that we have Zacian's Adventure Effect, and Party Power, and Weather Boost, and whatever other assists we have to help us with those things. Long story short, I'm expecting this is going to be the same case for Dynamax battles. So there's your first thing to remember. Blue is going to be easier to beat than red, or Latios over Latias. Both being a dragon and a psychic type, they're going to have the same amount of weaknesses to 6 different typings, but for this video we're going to focus specifically on the best counters that we have available at the moment. The very first of which is going to be our number 1 ghost type attacker for max battles, Gigantamax Gengar. Gengar itself has a crazy high attack stat, especially for something from the first generation. So if this is something that you have, it's definitely one that you want to include. If by chance you don't have the Gigantamax, Dynamax is going to be your number 2. So I absolutely love that they've included that with this week's timed research. For Dynamax Pokemon, your max moves are based on the typing of your fast move. So for Dynamax, you'll want to be using it with the fast attack Shadow Claw. And also especially important to note, Gengar is weak to psychic attacks. And because it's such a glass cannon, it's basically weak to everything except for fighting types. We need to make sure that we back it up with a couple of good tanks, especially when we're going up against Latias, which is going to be the harder of the 2. The next best attacker on the list, I can't show you my own because I don't even have one yet, but that's going to be Single Strike Urshifu, which is now currently the hardest hitting dark type attacker that we have. If you have it, awesome one to use. If you don't, the Ghastly you get from the time research is better anyway, so hopefully you have enough candy to be able to evolve and put some levels into that instead. It's certainly a lot easier to evolve than Kubfu was. Another attacker we consider because of its weakness to fairy type attacks, Dynamax Hatterene. which I'm only just evolving now. That's the strongest fairy type attacker that we currently have in the game. But it does have a Dynamax version which is coming out sometime in the future, so I generally encourage people that if you haven't powered it up already, I mean, unless you love it, but maybe save your resources for the Dynamax, which is going to be better anyway. We then also have Dynamax Latias, which hopefully you might have caught on the weekend just past, because naturally the Eon Twins are also weak to ice type attacks. And if I were to use it, I'd actually use this one here because I've already maxed it out, and that's where all my candy went. So I can't max out the hundo. But again, not a bad option to use. You may want to avoid having it on the field, specifically because Latios learns Solar Beam, which is super hard hitting as it is, without coming from Latios, which is the harder hitting of the two. Latias also learns Thunder, which is going to be probably one-shotting that as well, so definitely something to be mindful of. All in all, the real long of the short is, yes, while we have these other counters available, we're getting a free Dynamax Ghastly, and if Ghastly is also something that you don't have a lot of candies for, you can actually mirror trade that with a friend, evolve it to Haunter, and once traded, Haunter is absolutely free to evolve through to Gengar. That'll save you 100 candy right there. You'll then need another 20 candy to level that up to level 20, and your level 20 Dynamax Gengar is going to be hitting harder than your level 20 Dynamax Lapras that you just caught on the weekend. So those are the attackers. At all costs, we need to preserve them as much as we can, so quickly looking into the best tanks that we currently have available. And especially when it comes to Dynamax battles, my first and probably top suggestion for most of these is always going to be Dynamax Blissey, which continues to prove itself time and time again as one of the very best tanks for soaking up copious amounts of damage, as well as serving as the #1 healer in the game. Another Pokemon that I'll suggest for both is going to be Dynamax Metagross. As a Psychic and a Steel type, is going to provide good resistances to most of the movesets barring Thunder and Solar Beam. And Metagross also nouns Fury Cutter, which is a bug type move, which the Eon Twins also just happen to be weak to as well as being Metagross's first one-turn fast move, so excellent for charging the max meter. At this point, I want to suggest a different tank for the last two, so we're going to build a party, firstly for Latios, and I'll tell you why, at least for now, I'm going with my current suggestion. So I'll always use a Blissey because it has no resistances or weaknesses, so it really makes no difference. I'll use Dynamax Gengar as my attacker, and for the third tank, I'm planning to use a level 50 Dynamax Corviknight. Corviknight's a steel and flying type, and very recently I pitted it against Dynamax Blissey in a tank test against Rillaboom. And because of Corviknight's massive bulk and multiple resistances, especially to grass type moves, Corviknight was actually one of the very few Mon so far to date that actually outranked Blissey in a tank test, which was absolutely huge. Now again, like I mentioned earlier with Hattrine, Corviknight does have a Dynamax, which could be coming out sometime in the near future, but I really can't argue with the fact that in this situation, it's by far going to be the #1 tank for Solar Beam. And also with its Steel typing, it's going to provide some resistances to the remaining Dragon and Psychic attacks that Latios has, which leads me to my third and final tank suggestion for Latias. Teams looking mostly the same, Blissey and Gengar, and my final tank is going to be Crown Sword Zacian. And the reason that I'm going for Zacian is because of the Dragon type move Outrage, which can be absolutely hideous with the amount of damage that that move deals. As a Steel and a Fairy type, I think that makes Zacian like 3 times resistant, at least. Zacian's Steel typing also has some resistance to Psychic type moves. But of course, because this is all currently just speculation, because we've got no idea just how difficult these things are actually going to be until we go up against them this coming weekend. But those are currently going to be the best Pokemon that we have available right now. The timed research doesn't expire for another 6 hours and 9 minutes from 11:24 our time here now in New Zealand, so at the end of the max battle weekends, so you can actually save these particles in the timed research to use during the weekend for an extra battle and a half. And same as we do for every Dynamax Legendary, One Queen and I are going to be out early on Saturday morning just to see how difficult these things are going to be to take down. Currently, as our teams are built right now, we cannot beat Latias and T5 raids with only 2 trainers, you know, referring specifically to myself and One Queen. So I'm actually very interested to see at this point if we can do it as a Dynamax. So if you haven't already, don't forget to like the video, sub to the channel, turn on your notifications, because first thing Saturday morning, we're going to find out, and I look forward to seeing you there. Good luck on the hunt. But that's alright.